All right, with Indian Wells out the way, we have some massive news with the rankings because we haven't done the rankings for a couple of weeks because nothing's really happened during the last couple of weeks. But now with Indian Wells and 1,000 points going to certain players, it's changed a lot in the rankings. Let's go have a look at who won Indian Wells because we had some big champions. All right, starting on the women's side of the event, we had a final between Andreeva and Sabalenka, and it was Andreeva coming back from a set down 2-6, 6-4, 6-3 to beat Sabalenka in the final, and she got a massive boost in the rankings because of it. And then on the men's side, Jack Draper winning his first 1,000 title by beating Holger Rune in the final 6-2, 6-2, and he also got a big boost in the rankings because of it. All right, let's have a look at the players outside the top 10 who went up and down the rankings this week. All right, starting on the women's side, we had Bencic going up 13 spots into number 45 spot after making the quarterfinals of Indian Wells, so really getting her ranking back up the rankings after being away having a baby. Talon Grigspor, he goes up to number 34 in the world, which is 9 spots higher than last week after having a great run in Indian Wells. And Fonseca, after going and playing a challenger event in Phoenix and winning that, he goes up to a career high number 60 in the world, 20 spots higher than last week because he won a challenger. So not everyone who did well at Indian Wells, or didn't do well at Indian Wells in his case, didn't benefit from some points outside of the tournaments that we were watching. Players who went down to the rankings, Maria Sakkari, she goes down 22 spots to number 51 in the world after losing all the points from last year's final of Indian Wells. Vukic, he went down 13 spots to number 77 in the world, also losing a lot of points from this time last year. And Nardi, he goes down 17 spots to number 84 in the world, and that was also because he lost a lot of points from last year. Remember, he did beat Djokovic at the tournament in Indian Wells last year, so a couple of players there that lost points from last year going down the ranks. All right, let's have a look at the women's rankings now because we have a lot of changes. After a 1,000 event, we usually do, but no change at the top with Sabalenka at 1 and Swiatek at 2, Gauff at 3 and Pegula at 4. Key stays at number 5, but we have a new player at number 6 with Andreeva going up to number 6 after winning in Indian Wells, which is a career high for her. 5 spots higher than last week, pushing Paolini down to number 7. Rybakina goes down to number 8. Zhang stays at number 9. And Navarro goes down 2 spots to number 10, pushing Badosa out of the top 10 completely. So Andreeva, after winning back-to-back 1,000 titles, gets to a massive career high, and she's not that far away from being maybe 4 in the world, because if she does well in Miami and maybe Pegula and Keys don't, she could really leapfrog them and put herself in that top 4 in a couple weeks' time. Looking at the race of the finals now, and we had no change at the top with Keys still at 1 and Sabalenka at 2 after having good runs at Indian Wells. But Andreeva, she goes up 1 spot after winning Indian Wells into that number 3 spot, pushing Swiatek down to number 4. We had a little bit of a change in the middle as well, with Rybakina going up 1 spot to 5, pushing Townsend down to 6. Navarro stays at 7. Pegula goes up 2 spots to number 8. Anisimova at number 9. Bencic jumps back into the top 10, 3 spots higher than last week, pushing Badosa out of the top 10 completely. So not too many crazy changes this week, but a lot of the players that did well at Indian Wells were already in that top 8 at the race of the finals. So only minor changes here and there. And we're going to start to see a lot less movement in these top 10 rankings because the points are now getting so high for those players at the top that it's only going to be a battle between themselves eventually. So we will get some movement in Miami, but we'll have to wait and see what happens after that. Over on the men's side of things, going to the top 10 rankings, and no change at the top with Sinner at 1, Zverev at 2, Alcaraz at 3, and Fritz at number 4. But Djokovic, he goes up 2 spots to number 5, even though he played bad and lost in the second round. So he got benefit because he didn't play that great last year, and other players that did do last year dropped down. Ruud goes down to number 6, and Draper, he goes up 7 spots into that number 7 spot after winning Indian Wells, which is a career high for him. So one massive week for Draper, and he has gone flying up the rankings, and there's potentially a chance for him to go even higher next week, possibly to number 5 if he plays well in Miami. Medvedev, he went down 2 spots to number 8 in the world. Rublev went down to number 9. Tsitsipas goes down to number 10, and Demonor gets kicked out of the top 10 completely. So Draper, the big mover of the week, having a really good run, and also Djokovic getting a little boost in the rankings as well, thanks to some players losing some points. All right, looking at the race of the finals now, no change at the top with Sinner at 1 and Zverev at 2, but Draper, after winning 1,000 points in Indian Wells, he goes up 15 spots into the number 3 spot, and now it's going to be a matter of if he can stay in that spot for the foreseeable future. Alcaraz stays in at number 4 there, as FAA went down 2 spots to number 5, Shelton went down 1 spot to number 6, Demonor went down to number 7, Rune, he goes up 34 spots into the number 8 spot, pushing Djokovic down to number 9, Paul goes up 1 spot into that number 10 spot, and Shapovalov, Mahatch, and Fokina all get kicked out of the top 10 completely. They didn't do as well as Indian Wells as the other players did. So very interested to see. There's a lot more movement on the men's side because it's the first 1,000 event of the year. So expect a lot more movement going into the next couple of weeks. Unlike the ladies, where they've kind of a bit more set because they've played a lot more tennis. All right, so there it is. They are the rankings for this week. No massive change at the very top, but of course, Andreeva and Draper winning Indian Wells and getting a massive boost of the rankings because of it. And they're in the top 10, like really in the top 10. They're not just like, on the fringe like they were maybe a couple weeks ago, at least when Andreeva kind of jumped in for a minute and then jumped out. They're right in the middle of the top 10, so they're going to be there for a while, you would expect. But let me know in the comments below. What was the biggest takeaway from Indian Wells for you? Was it Draper and Andreeva winning? Was it Andreeva's amazing run by beating Sabalenka and Swiatek back-to-back? I mean, that was huge to do that. Also, Draper beating Alcaraz. That was a big movement in his career and a big moment for him, not just winning the title, but also beating him along the way. But there it is. They are the rankings for this week. Miami, it's going to be crazy.